Michelle, and today Elizabeth Chappell is joining me. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I know, I am so excited because you have done amazing things, right?
Well, thank
and
you.
I can't wait to dive in. Like, I'm really impressed with you, and we have worked together. And it was so nice because sometimes, like, as an agency, it's like maybe I work with someone and they have their launch, and then maybe they come back, maybe they don't, or they're doing their own things, or they did their ads on their own. And then you were like, hey, by the way, I wanted to fill you in with what happened. That is like such a great feeling to hear, like, where your business has gone and all the good stuff, especially after we work together. So I know how amazing you are. Can you share a little bit about your journey, who you serve, who you help, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, we just spoke on my podcast. We talked about the power of the niche. So I'm like the poster child for that. So I'm in the quilting industry. I am a quilt pattern designer, fabric designer, but my real bread and butter is teaching a course on how to help other people turn their craft into a career, specifically quilters. Like, how can they learn how to write quilt patterns and, do all that stuff.
So let me ask you, how did you get into doing quilting?
It's so bizarre. So, and a lot of quilters, I feel like, don't get this. So it was business first for me. It wasn't, I have a podcast called Craft to Career, which I'm helping other people turn their craft to career, but for me, it was more career to craft.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So I had this entrepreneurial spirit. I was studying, you need to have a niche and like the power of the niche. And then my best friend at the time, her mom came to Houston for this quilt market, and she'd come year after year. And I was like, what does your mom do? And she was like, oh, she's a fabric designer and quilt pattern writer. I was like, huh. And she was like, yeah, she's very successful with it. I was like, really? So the second year she came to Houston, I was like, can I come and see what this is all about? I did not realize what a big ask that was. Like, to get a ticket in the door to this quilt market is like, you have to be an industry insider. And so they pulled some strings and got me in. It blew my mind, like the cool factor of it. So I loved the fabric and the designs. And then I started putting one and one together. I'm like, this is a major niche. This is $1 billion industry. Like, the amount of money that's going on here, and people are congregating. Like, there's this market here that people come from around the world. This is the thing that I've been reading about. So my friend and I were like, we should do something in this industry. So we started a monthly subscription box because they were super hot at the time, and for quilters. And I was like, well, I better learn how to quilt if I'm going to have a business in the industry. So, and then it just snowballed from there.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. Because I thought like, oh, quilting is like a thing. You must have enjoyed doing it, or you have that creative. That is funny. I love that. I love that story. Different. And even more so. So we're talking about today pretty much how you quadrupled your enrollment in your course, right? Yep. So you grew from 60 members in your course to 260 over the course of a year, and your product sells for $1,000, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Second of all, crazy cool. I think everyone listening would want those results. So tell me more about that. Let's talk about it.
Well, so the prior year, the 60 enrollment, still great. Still like, okay, great. Yeah. But I had also that year been studying, and people are like, well, you should really invest in Facebook ads that will bring you to the next level. And so I did. I hired a company, and they helped me with ads, and we can go more into detail with that. But, I realized at the end of the day, the amount of money that I put into that, I was a net negative. Like, I was losing money on that. And so I stopped doing that. And then the next year, with some marketing strategy and with your help, I spent way less money, and, the numbers went way up. So I learned the importance of smart marketing and smart advertising. So yeah.
I love this. Okay. So you had mentioned this to me. So maybe we could first talk about that, because you just hit on it. So you had told me the year that you had 60, your revenue went up, but then your profit plummeted.
Yep.
Right. So when you were working, or when you, I guess, I don't know what happened in which order. So let's talk about the experience like before when you got the 60 sales. As you're working with this agency, did you realize like at the time, like, or were you just so excited that you got the 60 sales, or were you really like keen in on your numbers that you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not really making money?
I did not realize how much of a loss it was until recently when I pulled up the
Hmm.
beginning of my business, 2016 to 2022. I looked at my profit and revenue and I was like, what is this outlier in what was it, 2020,
Mm-hmm.
2021, where my revenue went up and my profit went down. And I had to reach out to my CPA. I'm like, what happened? I don't remember. And she
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, this ad agency. I'm like, oh, how could I forget? Yes, that's what happened. Um, yeah. And I mean, I I was like, well, then, the numbers weren't bad. I think it was higher than it would have been without the ads. My email subscribe list went way up, which did not convert to sales. So don't be fooled by these. Even your email subscription list can be a vanity metric, like don't be fooled. You want to be attracting the right people.
Yes. And you nailed that. I was just what was I recording the other day? And I was like, it just reminded every time you go, and they're even still talking about this today, because this is something I've learned since the beginning I got into this. It's like you need to build your list because every person you bring in equates to $1 per month in your business. So if you have a list
Right.
of 10,000 people, that you should be making $10,000 a month, right?
Okay, I've heard this too. Let's please talk about this.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
But it comes down because I remember sitting there going, okay, at the time I had like 500 people, if that. And I'm like, but I'm not making $250 a month. What's going on? Right.
Yep.
Because in my mind, I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. And of course, when I first started, I didn't have a marketing budget. I was still learning all the things. So I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it without really knowing what I was doing at the time or thought I
Yep.
was learning. So yeah, so that's the idea, but you hit the nail right on the head when you said basically you were building a list of non-buyers,
Yep.
right? So it's like beware that even though you're building your list, I'd rather build a smaller
Yep.
list of qualified people who may not even, because a lot of people also think as, okay, well, if I got them and they're not buying today, then they're never going to buy. Well, they could buy a month or two once, as they say, once they warm up for you, or maybe for whatever reason they weren't ready.
Yep.
Right. But it's like, are they ever going to buy for you? Because then what happens is once you have that data and you're like, okay, they're buying in month 3, how can I now shorten that buying time to month 2 or then month
Yep.
1? Right. To get them to take the action and make a buying decision quicker. So I love that you hit on that because
Yeah.
a lot of times that is an issue. Okay. So if your experience with working, and we're not bashing anybody, I just
Right.
want to make that clear. But if you could go back based on your experience, would you do anything different, or would you ask different
Absolutely.
questions?
Yes.
Like, fill
Yes.
me
So
in.
I'll share. So for starters, um, well, okay. So there was like an introductory thing of you cannot work with this company was saying you cannot work with us unless you can afford at least this amount. And it was a high dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone was a sort of exclusivity that I was like, oh, I will qualify, And so that
Mm-hmm.
alone was a vanity pride, like, oh, it must be more valuable. They must really know what they're talking about because they charge so much. Um, I had done enough research to know that I needed to be able to see the results of these Facebook ads because I had seen people say they might run these ads, but then when they're done, you don't get that data. And that data is like you have to have that to move forward. So they did do that. So I felt good about that. Um, but they also had a contract where you had to bring them on for a certain period of time. It was a significant amount of time and you had to pay them every month so much money.
Mm-hmm.
And so my launch is in September and I was like, well, I'll bring them on in January so that I can start getting my list grown and Facebook starting to recognize who's my ideal, blah, blah. That sucked. Like I did not, I way overpaid. And it was very frustrating because I would say, hey, I want to run this ad. And they were like, nah, we're not going to do that. And I was like, whoa, I'm paying you. Like, run the ad. Like, please, what am I paying you for? And the communication just lacked a little bit there. And so there were days I was crying, and as it got closer to my launch, I was like, I want out of this contract, but now I'm so close to my launch that this is when I really want to run the ads. So I just felt trapped.
Mhm.
And also looking back, I remember talking with my husband about this. Always talk with someone reasonable before making an investment. And he even was like, I don't think you should do this. Like, listen, just really sit on something. Like if you're doing it just because, like I said, I will qualify, like I will be one of those people who can pay that amount and afford it. Like that's not a good reason to hire a company. And there was even someone who I knew who had hired them. And so I had somebody say they're the real deal, which makes it a little bit harder. But I guess looking at maybe getting some, I'm trying to think here, if you could ask them for some statistics of people they've worked with, like
Mhm.
not names but like, can you show me some numbers of results that you've had
Right.
or a marketing approach? What's your marketing approach?
Right. For me, there's so much to unpack in here because you also said, like, let's just talk about like how you felt like you were part of like an exclusive club working with them, right? So based on my experience, and I don't know if this has happened to you, is sometimes whether it's anything that you're looking to hire, like if you're surrounded by a group of people or like you're in a mastermind, right? And then somebody hires this person, you're gonna figure out that now everybody's gonna go hire that same person because oh, so and so had this great experience. But what happens is that not to say maybe that person is not the right fit for you, but maybe not the right fit in your business right now,
Yep.
right? So depending on it's not only if somebody's making more revenue than you are like at that kind of different place in your business, but what I've also figured out is like where you are in your business. Are you at the level to that you're ready to run ads or which you should always be doing, but that was just an example like to do this because maybe the way your marketing strategy is currently being done that would not maybe be included in that strategy. Does that make sense? So what happens
Absolutely.
is we get like this peer pressure or we
Mm-hmm.
want to be part of these exclusive people or all these people are using, you know what I'm saying? So we all tend to follow in on that. I have made several investments that I was like, if I went back to like, what could I have done with that $5,000 here or the $15,000 there that would have served my business better, right?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that like we were talking on your podcast earlier, so you guys should go listen to that. I'll drop which episode that was or whatever in the show notes where you can check her podcast out. But we were talking about like what kind of entrepreneurs we want to be, right? Like both who I would want to work with or who you want enrolled in your courses, right? Like, and how we step up. And one of the big things, it's like you play big. You're like all in. You're like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to do what I know that needs to be done. And that's to get more exposure and do all these things. So when you're looking, you said your launch was in September and you started your ads in January, which is a huge runway, right?
Yeah.
So most of the time you would say, okay, I'm not going to get an immediate return on my investment. I know because I'm not launching till September. However, when that September came, you were probably hoping I'm going to get us some sort of return back from all of this,
Yeah.
right? So when it comes to the communication on this, we're so you had said that they said no. Was there any conversation? Did you feel uncomfortable saying, "Hey, well, why wouldn't you want to run this ad?" Like, can you
Yeah.
okay.
No, there was. And they were like, well, we just don't think it will convert. And I was like,
Mm.
it was just very frustrating. I was like, well, if you feel that way, share with me why, or let's come up. I wanted to run ads, but there was literally, I want to say like a month and a half where I'm paying them where we weren't running any ads. And
What?
yes. And then the ads that we did run,
Girl.
it was like, so I'll give the exact example. I had a free quilt pattern, and that was what I was offering and paying ads for a free quilt pattern. And we did try an upsell, which was not converting, by the way, which is a whole separate thing. But so anyhow, I'm bringing in bunch of people. My list was growing like crazy. I was like, sweet. So I had like 40,000 people on my list. And I was the same. I'm like,
Mhm.
I should be bringing in $40,000 a month. That's not happening, you know? But I was attracting all of these super needy people who were expecting the world for free and they were not interested in buying anything. So I'm not saying it's bad, but also what I was selling was a course on how to write your own quilt patterns. So I'm attracting the entirely wrong customer. And I was
Right.
bringing in a consumer instead of someone who wants to create that thing. So
Mhm.
when I had you, it was a totally different. I was offering a free course on how to write and sell your own quilt patterns. All of a sudden, I'm totally attracting my ideal customer.
Right, right. And I just want to just again say we're not bashing anything. It this was like perfect timing. I really feel I'm doing a really good job manifesting because we had talked about doing this show and we had this scheduled for a while. And yesterday I did a coaching call and literally this was one of the questions. It was like all these agencies I hired and nobody's doing this and blah 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 and all these questions came up and I'm like this is so ideal. I'm going to ask Elizabeth.
Yes.
Because these things happen and it's kind of like um and this is my next question for you is that like you must have gone once you looked at your numbers you must have gone through like this kind of roller coaster of like yeah I made all this revenue and then oh wait a minute wait right so how did you regroup to move forward especially because that had to be discouraging so how did you like regroup
Mhm.
inside to like say okay I'm gonna still be in with this.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger question I think is like, why did you ever do Facebook ads again? Because it was so traumatizing. But a couple things. One, I trusted the successful people who I admired who were saying Facebook ads are very crucial, that I knew enough to know they know what they're talking about. Whatever I experienced is not what they're experiencing. So how can I bridge that
Mhm.
gap? Like I know that they are telling the truth. So it's got to look different. So I'll figure it out. So that kind of like I will figure this out, you know. But also luckily, I mean my business was still in the black. It wasn't like I was in the red. I wonder if I think I still know myself enough though. If I were in the red financially, I think I would have known enough to be like, don't give up. Like this was, uh, it was very embarrassing when I did those. And the reason I did all of my numbers from 2016 to 2022 is to share with my course that I have. That was very humbling to be like, wow, that was a $31,000 mistake that I made, you know, to put it
Mhm.
in financial terms. And but I refuse to believe that that's money lost. Like that's a huge lesson learned. And if
Yes.
I can save other people, that makes me that much more valuable. Like I
Yes.
have this lesson that I can help you avoid and knowledge that I paid with my blood, sweat, tears, and money, you know? So it's
Mhm.
valuable.
Yes. I love that you came from that perspective because it's so easy to just be like, no, because what happens, it's like there's like a ton of sayings. You cut your nose to spite your face and all that kind of stuff because you do need to get exposure. So whether it would have been Facebook or TikTok or something, you know what I mean? Like you still need to do something to bring new people in. So you kind of mentioned on how trusting you kind of were.
Mhm.
When you were like, okay, I'm Michelle, like how like what state of mind were you?
It had been a long enough Oh my gosh, so sorry. That was so
No
weird.
worries. I thought it was me because my internet goes out every now and again.
Ours doesn't. They're building a house next door, so maybe that's what's going on. But
Oh.
anyhow, okay. So I was talking about, I'll just jump back in if that
Okay,
works.
that's fine.
Okay. So it had been long enough that I was able to separate myself and not be too like up close and personal emotionally and like the bad taste I had in my mouth. And then I also wanted to hire you because I had talked with Karina Gardner, so
Mhm.
word of mouth, and she was very detailed in how you were helping her. You also had a course. I started out by taking your course actually,
Mhm.
and I like that your course was available for life. Is it still available? If not, we can edit that out.
Yeah.
Okay. That it was available for life. Because again, that other agency had a course, but it was only 1 year that you had access to it. And sure
Mhm.
enough, after the year mark, I was like, wait, I still need help. I don't know, you know.
Mhm.
Um, So again, not bashing, but I was very carefully analyzing. And the price point was at a point where I could hire you without breaking the bank. And I did get results. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh, well, this is like a win-win-win, which is why I tell everyone about you.
Yes, well, thank you. It was so funny because when you left, so I have a question. So you had 60. So when it went to 260, was it like it was, did you keep the 60 and it was like 200 more?
No, they're all brand new. I know.
What?
Okay. I guess there were a couple of alumni who did sign up at a lower price point to take it, but not many. So
So it's literally 260.
yeah,
So it's as if you had zero. I love it.
pretty much. Yeah,
Even
pretty
better
much.
than what I thought because I'm like, oh yeah, she went up by 200. But that is amazing. So you launch one time a year?
Yep.
Okay.
For that.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
so basically it was like from one launch, you had a one launch of 60 people after building your list for a whole entire year.
Yep.
And then you just did this because we started working together. I think it was like a month or two before. It wasn't that far
Yeah.
before the launch. And then you had the launch, and then it was like, go.
Yep.
Amazing. What did you do besides the Facebook ads? Or was that
Yeah.
the difference? What do you think made the difference? Let me just ask you that.
Well, a couple of things. So I read the book Launch by Jeff Walker,
Mm-hmm.
and I pretty much followed his launch strategy. But to drive people to that launch, I used Facebook ads. So while I still had a different launch strategy, I still had to get Facebook ads to bring people to that thing. So
Right.
the thing that I was offering was much more appealing. Like I said, it was attracting
Mm-hmm.
my ideal customer. Um, so figuring out what to market instead of like have a free quilt pattern,
Right.
it was much more smart. Um, and then yeah, just yeah, so those are the 2 big
Right.
pieces that
Finding
changed.
like the right audience to go with what the offer was. So it was really honing in and dialing in on who your customer was,
Yep.
right? Really what they wanted, what was that problem that you were solving for them, right? And coming through it. So I'm loving this. Is there anything that you're doing because we should probably have a conversation about this like offline. Like because I know like you're still working and growing on what you're doing and like even creating maybe other offers or like other programs or because I know you have like you were just mentioning the alumni. So are you doing anything right now for your customer fulfillment to retain these people to move up with you or to stay in with you? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I do have what's called the Craft to Career Club, and so that's once you're done with this course, it's a really holding your hand experience to grow and to market, because
Mm.
now you've learned how to create this product, but you need the marketing help. And I have a mastermind, but I hired someone who's been really great. She's a very great visionary, and I appreciate this about her. She was like, "You have this many alumni and this many who've signed up for your Craft to Career Club. What about the people who didn't?" And so she wants to do a focus group and talk with them and figure out why, what would appeal to you? Why didn't you sign up for it? And to really focus on those people who did sign up and how to really provide more value. I mean, I do feel strongly it comes down to obsessing about your customers and thinking about how can I give them more results? What can I do to make it better for them? And
Mhm.
that is a fun obsession, but also really does help your business to grow.
For sure. Because when people feel and see that you're caring about their success, right? Or they feel seen, heard, all the things and how you could support them. I mean, that's when they become like those raving fans and they're loyal and they're lifelong customers of yours. And I love that you were able to find somebody to kind of help you identify what that is, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, what are you doing with this list of unqualified people?
That's such a great question. I feel like I'm in a coaching session right now. This is good. So now when you say unqualified, do you mean unqualified for the course or for
I don't know. So, you have these lists of people who didn't buy from you before. Have
yeah.
you just been like chalk it up to, okay, that was experience, lesson learned? What are you doing to either nurture? 'Cause I know you have like you were just mentioning the alumni. So, are you just been like chalk it up to, okay, that was experience, lesson learned? Are you, what are you doing to either nurture? 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 What are you doing to either n to get them to buy, identify? Just
Yeah.
curious.
Yes. So many. In fact, part of me is like, Elizabeth, shut it off. But for example, I'll throw this out there. I send out a weekly newsletter. So every week I have a podcast and a guest blogger. And so I share in the newsletter those things plus something in my personal life. So the thing that I shared this last week in my newsletter was I've been going now on 4 weeks of working out consistently every week. And I'm curious if any of you would be interested in an accountability group.
Mhm.
And so many people responded yes, that I was like, oh, is this worth my time? Especially if I don't charge for it. And then I was like, do I charge? Don't I charge? And I was like, a lot of these people haven't signed up for my course. This could be a really great touch point for them to know, like, and trust me and realize, oh, I really do like her. And so
Mhm.
just always thinking in those terms. And I do post on social media, like I'll share my success and my students' success and let them know. Especially, I feel like the biggest time to be marketing is during the off launch, like
Right.
keep reminding people, letting them know I have a retreat that's for alumni only. And I share that. Like there's this awesome retreat. It's for alumni only. I want people to know, oh, when you sign up for a course, you're not just getting the value of the course, you're getting all these experiences. I had like all the alumni for that quilt market in Houston that I
Right.
mentioned. They have that every year. So I invited all the alumni who are coming into town, come to my house because I live in Houston. Let's have dinner. And so I
Mhm.
just like to think about providing opportunities that are visible that people can see, oh, she actually really cares and is invested and like keep being on people's radar of like it actually because the course, it's like $1,000. It's not
Mhm.
cheap, but I want them to know the value is it keeps going. It's not a one-time course thing,
Right. I do love that and getting exposure. So I have a few questions, but I'm gonna write them down so I hopefully don't forget. So with the oh, and now that I say all this, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Doesn't that happen? I'm like you mentioned so many things coming up. Okay, so you basically have two things, right? Because what I find that happens is then, and the reason why I asked you this, and then I was like, how can you make it, because a lot of people feel like, well, wait a minute, now that I have this list of people who maybe aren't a fit for my course just yet, let me make something to fit for them. Right?
Mm,
Where
yeah.
it's like, okay, let's not make our lives more complicated or add more work to us or, however, you could do something that either, figure out kind of like where they are and or where they want to be. Do they even want to do the thing for your course, right? Where then you can kind of figure out. So, um that's why I was kind of saying like if you did like a boot camp or something like that, where then it's like, okay, now, like you say, they could spend more time with you and then
Mhm.
able to identify yes or no. Right. And
I
then
like
again,
that.
you do more market research or more fact finding. And then you can really be like, all right, we're going to clean up our list, or, maybe they just stay on this because they're here, or who can we identify that then can become a paying customer. And a lot of people, and I'm just going to throw this out here, and maybe this is not you, they're like, oh my God, I feel so guilty and it's money, money, money. Well, we are in business to make money.
Yes.
However, we also are in business to serve people. So they signed up for something for some reason, right? So we
Yep.
need to figure out what that is and help them on their path to see if they really want this thing, and then provide them with your service because you have it. I know what the other thing. So you said you only launch once a year. So if somebody wants to join now, what do you do in the middle?
Yeah, so this is an ongoing thing that I'm thinking about. So right now I have this free mini course where you can go and it's taught through canva.com, and I teach how to create a quilt pattern in canva.com.
Mm,
And it's limited time because I was realizing people were signing up but not going through the course. So I changed it to
mm,
you have 30-day access. You can download the videos, right? So it's like you can actually save it, but I want to encourage them to like actually do the thing. So there's that. They can also buy templates to use in Canva. But I used to offer once a year this craft to career course where it was focused, just because I do have some people in my audience who want a career in the quilting world, but not necessarily writing quilt patterns,
mm.
or they've been writing quilt patterns forever. And so they don't need that knowledge from me, but they want the business piece.
Right.
And then I have people who maybe took someone else's course on quilt pattern writing, but they still want to be in my alumni circle because of these cool things that we do. So
Mm-hmm.
I am actively, once this September is comes and goes and the course is out and I'm done, because I'm like repurposing it right now and like amping it up. Once that's done, I do want to tackle this craft to career course. That's an evergreen course where people can come at any time and purchase that and learn and become an alumni. And then even if you're not into exactly quilt pattern writing, but it's still geared towards a career in this industry.
Yes. And even with that being said, again, we talked about like what makes a great entrepreneur is that we are always learning. We don't know everything, right? We haven't done it all,
Mm-hmm.
learned it all, right? Because that's a whole extra thing. So even whatever you have in there, even if they like learned one little thing or saved them time on doing something or gave them a connection to, I don't know, a fabric, what do they call those? Fabric
Yeah,
distributor or
fabric
whatever.
manufacturer. Yeah.
Yes. So like even those kinds of things that sometimes I think that we think like, oh, they should already know that or they're not going to need it. They will. They
Yep.
totally will get some benefit out of it. So I love it. So to that point of me saying this is because if someone comes to you and being like, I don't see the value in
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 because I already know the design. Well, then we're talking about, okay, what kind of customer we want to look for? Are they going to look at, well, wait, what is this professional that I can learn from them? But what I really see the value is what is $1,000 worth the business side of it? Because I'm going to make way more than $1,000 once I go through this thing. So
Yep.
that's like the different, way to come from it.
Yes.
I love that. Is there anything else you want to share?
Well, I'm just thinking, I really like this boot camp idea because I'm just now thinking out loud here. So if you'll humor me and whatever, but I like this idea because in my little world, I've seen people and we've talked about this, they struggle with the niche. So to do a boot camp, like narrow your niche and
Mm-hmm.
really help them figure out what their niche is. And then, okay, if you like this and now you've got your niche, come and join me for this,
Yes. I
I
love
really like
that.
that.
Mm-hmm. And especially when people are struggling. And what's really cool is that even your buyers might want to come in because you're going to dig a
Hmm.
little bit deeper into it. Then, as you're talking, as you're already students, let's just call them students, as you're talking or you're pitching your thing, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And now you're building all this social proof because those people are in there. So it's like a double whammy. You're helping them figure out, give them the exercises or whatever you're going to do for the niching down. And then they're going to like pay you back, so to speak, by, singing your praises.
Yep.
That.
And even as a customer, because sometimes the customer doesn't understand, they prefer a certain look or a certain niche. So discover
Yeah,
what niche you are as a customer or as a business owner.
exactly. Win-win.
Not that I want to target, but anyhow, a lot of the customers end up becoming clients. So there
Yeah,
we are.
you never know. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Someone can learn something from somewhere. I love this. I love this.
I do too. This has been so fun. Thank you.
Okay.
I feel like a coaching call here.
I Okay, let's go into Michelle's hot minute. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. Okay, you
Okay.
ready? What
I
is
think.
you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, Netflix.
We'll have to say what show you're watching because I've watched a few and I was like, oh, that one was so good. Would you rather team up with Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel?
Wonder Woman,
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night Owl.
What is your favorite holiday tradition?
I really love Christmas Eve. We just all the things that we do on Christmas Eve. We have a
Oh,
talent show and food from all these different cultures. And yeah, it's really fun.
oh, that sounds like fun. Are you a sneakers or stilettos girl?
I mean, I usually wear sneakers, but I like to think I'm a stilettos girl.
I used to be more of a stilettos girl until now my feet hurt because I wear sneakers all the
Yeah.
time. I'm not used to wearing my
Yeah.
stilettos. What is your favorite house chore?
Vacuuming. Like vacuuming as in sweeping. I use it to sweep the floor. It's an
Yeah.
instant gratification.
Right? Okay. Where is your next travel destination?
Germany. We actually plan to go for the Christmas markets like in November. Yeah. Hopefully we go somewhere before then. We love to travel, but that's the next big thing.
Oh, I love it. And what tells you most about a person?
I think how they speak about other people when they aren't there.
Hmm. Love it. This was so much fun. I appreciate
Yes,
you,
thank
Elizabeth, for
you.
coming on
Thanks for having
today.
me.
Well,
Thanks so
let
much,
everybody
Michelle.
know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I have a podcast, Craft to Career, and then you can find me on Instagram at quilters_candy. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, there you have it. How to go from 60 to 260. That's quadrupling your course membership. In 1 year, really one launch to the next with Elizabeth Chappell. Definitely go check her out. I'll drop her everything and every place that you can find her in the show notes. I appreciate you once again for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. We'll see ya.
All right. Until next time, let's grow your business together.